I bought this cheap Golf R hoping to do a budget big turbo build, and today, after thousands of dollars in parts and months of this car sitting, we're finally gonna try to start it. So far, we have fully built this engine, making it strong enough to hold 700 horsepower. Now we have a long block sitting on a pallet, which is ready for our APR turbo upgrade and the supporting mods to go with our turbo. It's like an intercooler, an upgraded high pressure fuel pump, an upgraded low pressure fuel pump, multi-port injection, and we're gonna throw in some boost hoses and an intake. This complete setup has the ability to get just shy of 500 horsepower at the crank. Now 500 horsepower in a car like a Golf seems crazy, but because it's a Golf R, it has all-wheel drive, which means we're gonna be able to put all that power down to the ground. Now I am excited to have this car run, drive, and do some pulls in it, but I am nervous because having an engine in a million pieces like that always is nerve-wracking that any small mistake might ruin everything. I was really meticulous in building this whole engine, but I will never feel good until this car actually starts and drives out of the bay. To start with our turbo install, we have to swap the wastegate from the IS38 we had. A zippy they got that's holding our wastegate in place. So let's do this. Let's let the kids know at home how a wastegate works. So this is a wastegate. It opens and closes. See how that? This is what controls boost on your turbo. So the turbo spins. You see here the exhaust gas spins the turbo, right? This opens to allow the exhaust gas to pass out of this hole instead of going through the turbine. So if you go through the turbo, it keeps on spinning. If you open this up, less spinning. Make sense? More spinning, less spinning. If you're wondering if a blow-off valve does that, a blow-off valve doesn't do that. Unrelated. Take our wastegate out, we have these Torx bolts holding in place. You loosen this jam nut and then you can spin this whole thing out. You will want to leave your jam nut where it roughly was, because that's going to keep your position where the wastegate was, so you keep your actuator rod the same length. Yeah, this is old and ugly, that's true, just like me. And Charles. Charles is old and ugly too. I don't know if you know him. He's an old, ugly guy. Possible this could end up with problems, and I will be putting a wastegate on this in the near future, but for now, we're gonna roll it like it's perfect. This engine, if you didn't know, it sounded like this.
How is that related to a wastegate?
Well, it's not in this particular case, other than the fact that it just means it's old and decrepit, that's all. Yep, like Charles. Now that that's tightened, we can take this rod and thread it in place. Tighten this jam nut on our wastegate. We are right where we started, hopefully. Now we can put it on our engine. First thing I'm gonna do is start by installing our studs. I'm not gonna be removing the top studs, frankly, because they don't need to be removed and they're perfectly fine. Trying to remove them could potentially result in a problem, which is, so that's dumb. Don't make more problems when you don't need to. Okay, before we put our turbo on, we have to install the gasket. Then we're gonna hang our turbo in place, like so. And these nuts are mechanically locking, I believe, so they only thread so far before you have to turn them with a socket. This is what an IS38 turbo looks like on our engine, and this is what our upgraded APR turbo looks like. I think this looks awesome. It's large and in charge. Tell them Large Marge sent you. We're gonna start with our lines. This is the oil feed line that I'm starting with. Put that guy in just like that. That's the wrong bolt. As you can know, you may know this, but this car has been apart for 4 months, so I don't necessarily know where everything is supposed to go right now. We're still working through that. This is our oil return line. It allows oil to flow back from the turbo into the engine, which goes down to the oil pan. We replaced the seals, APR includes them, and so it popped right in there, no problem. My guess is we're gonna struggle on the block now. Oh my God, okay? We didn't struggle with the block. Note to self, always do the top first. There are bolts in there, you gotta bolt them in. You. This is the downside of working on a pallet, is if you drop things, they fall inside the pallet and then they're lost forever. Now I can show you threading it in, look at this. We did it. This is our next line. So we have that side, but sadly we don't have the other side of it down here where it goes to the block. That's because it's still stuck in the engine right here. So if you have this aluminum style one, probably don't try to take it out. It's probably not coming out, and you'll probably ruin it if you try to get it out. There's an updated hose that has a different end on it, and I have one on order that should be here tomorrow, and we'll install it then. Well, this is the Golf R engine. That's the old engine. This is our trusty Steed, the display engine. We built our trusty Steed up and made it powerful. Like, what's a powerful horse's name? Like Mr. Ed. You can see it's a GTI block because it says Mexico. El Mexico. And over here, Germany, right here. This is what happens when you drive around in New Hampshire for 246,000 miles. Honestly, it's lucky it didn't rust a hole straight through the block. This is another line right here that we need to get out, but it was not coming out of this turbo. So I ordered a new one of those as well. Can't be stuck in the turbo when you got a new one. This is a turbo support bracket. There is a notch cut out right here for where it clears the wastegate rod. My turbo is fully supported. This is another line that goes into our block. Interesting, it has a check valve in the end here. Now we have to swap our DV. One thing that's really great about this turbo kit that I think is awesome is it uses all factory parts related to it or around it. So it's plug and play and drop in, and the only APR custom part on it is this one outlet pipe. Other than that, all the turbo feed lines, return lines, gaskets, all that stuff is all factory, which means if you have a leak on this, you can just go to a dealer, pick up that seal, you're done. You need this line, you can replace just this line, again, from us, local dealer, whatever it may be. Serviceability can be a real problem on custom parts, is if you have a seal that is custom to that one manufacturer go bad, they may not have service parts readily available. It might take you a week to get, whereas this can make it a lot better. Buy one, shoptap.com. This is our APR high pressure fuel pump. It puts out significantly more pressure than the factory one because that's what's needed for all this MPI, upgraded fuel, all that stuff. This is a pre-built one that comes from APR. It is much more expensive than the alternative, but it's much more easy. So the alternative option is to buy the individual components from APR and then actually build your own pump. You're not gonna like that, and you're probably gonna f it up. So this is probably the easiest option for anybody, including me. By the way, including me. When you're going on here is you walk it down a little bit at a time because it's got spring tension on the high pressure pump. Make sure your cam follower is in there. No need to replace cam followers on these engines, by the way. Any TSI or newer engine does not need a cam follower replacement. They have rollers on them, they don't go bad. Don't replace them as a service item. They're expensive and unnecessary to buy. F it, oh God. This is what happens when you're old. I slipped on something, my hip hurts now. Oh, that really hurt. Oh God, I slipped on a wrench and now my hip hurts.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Okay, now our bolts are tight. Oh, I need to sit down. Before we install our engine, it's gonna be much easier to do our intercooler from the boys at APR before we install it. Clearances and all that jazz. So, but this is what we're talking about. These cars have issues with heat soak. Because we're putting in a bigger turbo, it's gonna create even more heat, even more of a demand for an intercooler. So here we go, the boys at APR have this meaty guy. They're a pain in the ass to install in cars in general because the clips, it's much easier with the engine out. Let's go do it. Easy install. Start by our grill. We're gonna pop this guy out and then we're gonna pull our bumper cover off. Here's the question, can I get to the clips? Nah, I can't. I was hopeful I was gonna be able to get to the clips without taking the bumper cover off, but it's not gonna go like that, unfortunately. If I was a younger version of me, what I would have done is I would have spent about 45 minutes trying to do it without taking the bumper off, which only takes like 5 minutes. And then I'd be mad and just take it off anyway. So instead, smarter, older me is just gonna take it off. Why aren't you coming out? Whew. There we go. There we go. Because I removed everything from the car, the headlight washers should not be hooked up. See? See that? They are gonna dump washer fluid everywhere. I'm sure of that. Also typical, leaves and everything. There we go. Oh, there's our clips. Okay, these are the clips from hell that they always give you a hard time. See this? See how you do this? This is how you try to get them open. But another alternative option that we've showed in the past is to cut them. Because they're old and brittle, they actually don't bend, which is even worse. So I'm not even gonna mess with that. This hole right here, you can run a screw into there and it's perfect. It holds in splendidly. And then you don't have to mess with these clips from hell ever again. Just like that. See how brittle that is? That's why it didn't flex. It's a no flex zone. Same thing here. My arms are a no flex zone apparently. There we go. Oh geez, see what happened there? This, I'm genuinely concerned about falling straight out of the car, so I'm gonna hold it in, because when I cut these other clips, it might fall. God, you see how hard they are, just even a cut. It's ridiculous. So what's gonna happen now is this is gonna leak coolant all over the ground. By the way, this car has had no engine in it with coolant hoses disconnected for 4 months, and it's been dripping coolant. It's 4 months, it's been dripping coolant. There's so many things out of this car that's made me so upset. And now I'm just gonna become a whiny baby about everything.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, I forgot I had plugged that with a piece of pig mat. I had forgotten that. Okay, so I forgot to take these lines out. I got a little ahead of myself because I was like, you know what? I'm feeling so froggy. Got cocky, I'm gonna be honest. Shouldn't have done it. This will be one of those moments where it's difficult to remove something because this car is from hell. This car is from hell. In this particular case, hell is apparently in New Hampshire. You know who loves penetrating things? My friend Charles.
Look at all the dust that's falling out.
Oh yeah. That's what happens when you have 250,000 miles on a car.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now that I've removed this in the dumbest way possible, I've made it the easiest intercooler install ever. Oh geez, oh God, oh God. Oh God. Well, let's not talk about it right now. When we take this intercooler off, it's gonna be a mess. Look at that, all I did was turn it over for a moment. This is literally a nightmare. There's no way any of this stuff is cooling well. Our stack here, on the back, we have our radiator. That's for the coolant of your engine. We have the intercooler. That's for cooling the air in your engine. Then we have the condenser, which is for your air conditioning. We're replacing this guy in the middle. That's what 246,000 miles does. It used to be all black like this, but it got beat to death on the road. And so now, as you can see, this is bug guts that ate off all of the black part. It's a bug life right here in the middle where it's silver, and then this is what it used to look like. I wonder if this is leaking.
Whoa.
Oh no, this is separated.
Oh.
The fins aren't even together. Well, I guess we're buying a condenser. I would never put that back in a car like that because the likelihood that it ends up leaking, pretty high. You think the radiator is gonna completely come apart too? That would be really just a real coup de grace, is if we didn't have to replace any of the things because we could have just bought new all of them. Just send me over the edge.
Over the hedge.
That'll really send me over the hedge. There you go. The radiator actually does look okay. It was protected by an intercooler and a condenser that was taking all the damage. I still am going to, look at that. I'm gonna blow this out outside because how could all that dirt have come out and there's still this much more dirt? It's a, ugh. It's a miracle question. Okay, we've finished the Dust Bowl of 2025. Best way to install this is to just drop this guy in to its home in the intercooler. And then you just pop her in right to here, just like that. See, that's all I need was a little bit of love. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everybody in bed, come on and ride. So this would be the time when you would put the condenser on. If yours didn't have a gaping hole in it that looked like it'd been chewed on by a wolf, a New Hampshire wolf. So we ordered a new condenser. As you can see, it doesn't have holes in it and isn't stretchy. The instructions from APR in the intercooler, they have this heat shrink. They tell you to stick it on there and on here, and then you gotta shrank them. And that's gonna be to prevent noise. There you go, 1 shrank. Shrank. You want them in there so that it fits snugly, because you don't want any clanking going on up in yours situation. Okay, there's 1. And then APR has these screws that you thread in to keep that in place. Now we're gonna move on to our MPI. You can see here's the additional injectors we're adding. Here are the 4 original injectors that are in the engine. We already rebuilt them and got all our new seals in place and then installed our rail. To do this, we have to modify this existing manifold. There are holes in the manifold for this to go into, but they don't actually go through the manifold, they're just closed up. The reason why that is because the rest of the world gets multi-port injection and we don't, so their manifold would actually be drilled all the way through. So they're all using the same casting for the injection mold of the original intake manifold, just whether it has holes or no holes. That is super convenient because it does leave us holes to drill out to then put this in without needing a custom manifold. APR has a setup where you have to drill out these mounting points to add this little insert into the manifold itself. You can see we've already done this one and we're gonna show you the other one right now. We have this insert, we have double 10 mil nuts that are locked together, and then the stud itself. Your angle has to be good because if you drill it cockeyed, number 1, you'll drill straight through the side of it, but then your studs will be in the wrong direction too. So you have to drill it as following the angle as much as possible. I'll be honest with you, I did the other one and I was nervous the whole way because I'm very concerned I'm gonna crack this manifold. This is not a send it type of situation. So if you gotta do a bunch of back and forth to do that, then do it, remove the material, do it, remove the material. Keep in mind when you're doing this, you're drilling the hole wider but not deeper. So I have a deep 10mm socket and then the double nut here. So this is something that you're gonna push downwards and to thread this in place. If you start getting in crooked like this, you do not want to keep going because if you do, you will end up with a problem. Right now, I'm going to test fit our rail just to make sure everything will go down. We are going to be about to start drilling into our ports for the injectors. First thing we need to do is look out for these flaps. So if a drill bit comes through, you don't want to hit them because you'll mess them up. So what you do is you push right here, push this down, and then you can see right here, it opens that rod up. And then you can stick this 8mm drill bit in there and then let it go. And now we can freely drill without worry of punching into these flaps. This is to deburr the hole. Stick it on your drill. You can see it kind of has like cutting things on it. It's not really going to be going anywhere, okay? So you're just deburring it. Then stick her in there. Bottom it all the way out. I know you're not used to that, but try. Okay, then you put in your 7mm drill bit and we're going to go down in. And this is going to function as your guide to make sure you don't screw up this hole like I did on this other stud we did. Okay, you can see there's like a little bit of like slag and stuff left behind and you can clean up your hole, but our hole is clearly all the way through. Here, we'll stick the drill bit through so you can see. You can see, there's our drill bit, see? We've officially got a hole for an injector. I'm gonna clean them up with the Dremel and then we'll be good to go. Now we're gonna put our injectors into our rail. As you can see, this is the last one. Just like that. We're gonna pop this O-ring into this space and then we're gonna lubricate it. That goes in here. Then you just push her in. like that. Then you got this clippy guy. I can't pick it up. Take this clippy guy and you just go sideways like that. Clip. Fuel pressure sensor. You spin her in. And then we're gonna go snug that up now so that we don't wait until later and then forget to tighten it and spray gas everywhere. Now we're ready to go into our manifold. We should be able to just drop it in. Seems like you gotta kind of guide the injectors into their home because they don't like to go to their home. There we go. There we go. All of our injectors, all of them in. Oh yeah. I'm putting the nuts and then we're gonna snug them up. Now you know you've fully done your rail. Also, don't forget, now that you're finished, don't forget this 8mm bit because you'll really regret that later. Now, we're gonna install the wiring for our MPI, multi-port injection. This has to go to the ECM, this guy. These go to the extra fuel injectors and some other stuff. Let's take a look. So obviously these parts go to the injectors that we're gonna be adding to our intake manifold. But this part goes to this ECM connector and this goes to the fuse panel. This plug is the one you're gonna be using. This goes to the engine. Our engine is out of the car, so this is what it currently looks like. But that also means that I can work on the bench with this, and this is the only positive bright light of this entire build, is I don't have to sit in the engine bay to do this. All right, so first thing we need to do is cut this zip tie so we can get this cover off of this connector. Pop this section over here. So you can pry from that side and then you rotate it backwards like that. First pin they tell you to push out is gonna be pin number 25. Now, you can see the pins, they're numbered all on top here. There's 1, and then there's 21. There's 85, there's 105. You have to count from left to right all of your pins. Obviously, it starts the next row, 1 through 21, then it goes to the next row, and it goes around to the next row and across. Now, before you can remove any pins, you have to take this purple locking tab out. So you gotta pry it outwards like this, and no pins will come in or be latched in permanently until that's out. Now we can find our pin 25, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and then we should be able to push out that terminal. There's this little black guy. There's like a plug that's actually in the 25 spot. Because all these wires are so bunched up in there, getting them spread open so that you can get those terminals in is really the biggest challenge. We're gonna pull that out, and that is what it looks like. It looks kind of like a wire terminal, but it's just a black plug. This is a kind of a hack that let me teach you. Get your phone camera out, get the focus on it, take a picture, and then what you can do is zoom in on your picture, right? So if you can't read it real good, when you zoom in, you can see that's 85. You can't, the angle's bad, so you can't see what that just looks like a blob. You know, get a better angle than the picture I took. You got it though. Okay, so our green wire has to go into pin 25, which is right here. It's important to pay attention to the direction of this black plug when you take it out, because this tab on it, on the back of it, will be in the orientation where your latch needs to go. We're gonna face it towards the middle of the connector. And you should hear it click like that. And you should be able to look and see on your pin 25 that there's actually a silver connector in there now. You should double, triple, quadruple check all of this stuff before you ever latch a wire in place. When you can't get the wire that you put in the wrong place out and you're having a hard time, it makes you furious.
Fast and furious?
No, just furious. Fastly furious, not fast and furious. We got 1 down, we got 4 more to go. This red wire, this goes to the power wire in the fuse block itself. We can't install it because our engine harness is out of the car right now, but we will be installing that when the engine goes into the car. Also, don't forget your purple connector. It is there to keep your wires from falling out. Click, and we're done. Here are a few items that are left over. Because our engine is out of the car, we can't finish any of this because our fuel lines are still in the car. We'll do it later. Okay. We're in the home stretch. We have a bunch of small details we have to button up to get this car ready to get dropped in. Like the spark plugs, ignition coils, a bunch of coolant pipes and hoses, and trim pieces all over the engine. Now we are ready for clutch. Boys at Southbend hooked us up with a stage 3 clutch to hold all this new horsepower we got. Owner's manual must be given to the owner of the vehicle. It has a break-in instructions with it and a warranty card. Southbend makes good products, and if you have to warranty it, it's probably because you don't know how to drive. And as you can see, it's quite pretty. It's heavy because it has a flywheel on it. Oh boy, oh boy. All right. Clutch pressure plate, this clutch disc, and then the flywheel is inside. In this bag are items such as, I don't need to cut it open, it's a Ziploc bag. Good stuff. Okay, this is a alignment tool for our flywheel. And then these are new bolts. You should always put new bolts when you put a flywheel onto an engine. Beautiful part about this is it says pressure plate side. Nothing on that side. Pressure plate side though, so you can see you can't screw this up at all. This is the side that has the pressure plate on it. That means this is the side that has a flywheel on it. If you put it backwards, clutch won't work. Single mass flywheel. From the factory, this car would have come with a dual mass flywheel. Dual mass flywheels have gears inside of them that dampen the engagement of a clutch. This has springs in here to dampen the engagement. Race clutches would have no springs. These squeeze together to make your car go. So this and this squeeze together and the disc catches and grabs. That's what you're doing when you're letting out the clutch pedal, is you're squeezing them together. And this is our transmission from a Volkswagen. So this spacer we have to put on, and I believe you cannot install this after you put the flywheel on. Once your flywheel is on, this guy is not going on. Now, before we install any of this, we have to clean these surfaces off. And that is because you want to make sure that it's free of any dirt, debris, anything like that, because if you have that, it will ruin your clutch's ability to be a clutch. You can see what's on there. You can see all this like machine oil and dirt and stuff like that. That has to come off. You do not want that on a fresh clutch. And just sit it on like that. And I believe these only go on one way. But this is heavy. So 2 things you want to be careful of is don't drop it. If you look straight at it, you can kind of line them up and see. So you'll have to keep spinning until you find the right holes. Usually what I do with these is I keep going and then I pass it. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I passed it. And then I keep convincing myself I didn't pass it. So I just keep spinning around. Okay, this appears to be lined up, but to be honest with you, most times when I do this, I think so. And then I end up doing it again. So let's have a look. There's 3. Okay, I feel good. By the way, not 100% sure, but I feel good. Look at it. Look at it. I'm gonna get them snugged in with an impact, but we are gonna be torquing them. Now this is the point where you have to torque it in place, and to do that you have to turn those bolts. But what's gonna happen is those bolts are gonna wanna turn the whole flywheel when you turn them. I'm gonna hurt myself. So we have this flywheel hold tool found at shopdap.com, specifically for occasions just like this. So our tool here sticks into the engine block here and then has a tooth that bites into the flywheel. And so when you turn it like this, the flywheel is going to want to turn, but that tooth kind of bites in there and sticks that in place. 60 Newton meters plus 90 degrees. So we'll do our 60s first, and we're going to kind of go into a cross pattern here. Keep hitting my torque wrench, and I'm really not happy about it. If you were in a pinch and you had to reuse these because your trans is out and you got no other option, make sure you Loctite the old bolts in, because at minimum that should be just an absolute bare minimum choice that you make. Look at that tool, it's doing great. Go buy one right now, shopdap.com, for all your flywheel holding needs. Only if you have Volkswagen and Audi flywheel needs, otherwise, off. Now we gotta do our 90s. So we're gonna put a mark at 12 o'clock on every bolt so we know when we're at 90 degrees. So you're just hoping something crazy happens. Like I poop my pants and then you can get, or I slip off the pallet and hurt my inner hip like an 85-year-old lady like yesterday. All 3 o'clock, my arm hurts. I was squeezing, compressing the valve springs, and because they're upgraded, they were extra springy. I hurt my arm. I hurt my left arm at my elbow, and it's been hurting ever since. 9. You can see this is the old one. This is a throwout bearing and slave cylinder. So what happens is when you press in the clutch, hydraulic fluid is pushed through this, and then it pushes this out. And that pushes your pressure plate. So this is actually how your clutch goes in and out, see? See? There's your clutch travel. So if you're pushing your clutch and it's not working, it's either because your clutch is broken or because this guy isn't pushing. Southbend specifically mentions in their instructions to clean out your splines. These obviously look not great, but they're not like chewed up. They just look dirty, really. So you can always run a pick through these if you felt like they were dirty or had stuff in them. But anything you do to make sure that everything goes on smoothly. And the way you can test that is before you install the clutch on the car, is you can actually put the clutch disc on and see this should move freely on those splines very easily. When they say clean the belt housing, what they really mean is like a lot of times when you blow a clutch, it'll spray stuff everywhere. You will want to check while you're here to make sure your like input shaft seal for your transmission isn't pouring gear oil out. As long as it's not leaking, you're good to go. If it was leaking, to be honest with you, you're probably just going to put it back in because you don't want to take apart a transmission to replace this because you got to take apart the whole stack. These are a shim, hydraulic spacer kit. Ours already has one because we already had a Southbend clutch in our car. This one on the floor looks eerily similar to the one that's right here. So we're gonna stick that guy in, same deal, and then this guy should be able to go and line up with whatever our bolt holes are that it lines up to, just like that. New slave cylinder. We got our spacers in. We're leaving the cover on that because until we're ready to pull it off and put fluid in there, we're gonna do that. Yeah, you could probably get this shim out not in the right place and then end up having it rattle inside of here. That would really probably make a bad day for you if you did that. If you're in need of information about installing your clutch when you have a Southbend, they include this paper that has details from their perspective that's a little more technical. And they also have break-in procedures based off of the specific clutch you put in the car. We have a stage 3 daily, and so we are 500 to 550 miles of driving that they say is stop and go driving. Highway driving is acceptable, but will not count towards break-in. Do not beat your car. Don't launch it. Don't do hard downshifts. Don't do hard highway pulls. These are all hard on the clutch. I know it's super counterintuitive. Everybody thinks if you do a 4th gear pull from like 60 to 120, that you're like, oh, I'm going fast. It's not hard on the clutch. No, that is extremely hard on your clutch because the applied torque required for your car and your gearing in that particular instance. We got stage 3 because of the torque value of this particular turbo kit lands us where a stage 3 is the appropriate amount. So we're gonna take our install tool here, stick it in like this, and then go in like that. Now, you wanna make sure that everything is firmly planted in there so you can put your pressure plate on. This is your pressure plate, and this is the side that has the fingers on it, which is what the slave cylinder pushes on those, and that's what actually releases it. So what happens is that these fingers get pushed in, and then it releases the disc from this. And then when you let it go, it pushes this back down. There's like a big spring inside of here. You push in, this gets pulled away, and when you let go, it clamps the disc against the flywheel, locking your engine and transmission together. There's dowels in here. I don't know exactly where the dowels go. I'm looking for witness marks. Let's just try it. We're gonna line up holes and see if any dowels line up with them. Yep. How do you know? You know when you line up the 3 dowels with 3 dowel holes. and then you tap them on. The torque spec on Southbend's sheet says tighten a star pattern until torque rises sharply. I'll be honest with you, I'm just gonna snug these up in a star pattern until I feel like they are appropriately tight. Now that our clutch is on, we can put our transmission on. I'm a little worried that I need to get the engine higher, but I'm not sure yet. So I'm gonna get this lined up first. A true dream if it just splined in just like this. If I had more time, I would have cleaned up this transmission and maybe took it to our boy who did dry ice blasting last time, but I don't have that kind of time, so we're rolling on. Now we're ready for our engine harness, and if you remember, we added MPI to it. Here's our ECM connector, and we're gonna pop this fella on. This is easier to route when you have the engine out of the car because, you know, there's nothing in your way, so you can just kind of pop and go. So we previously test fit the manifold and found out we definitely need to plug these injectors in ahead of time. So we're doing that, and then we're gonna figure out our orientation for clearance. You see the injectors, they have to all be pushed to the left. We ran the harness underneath, you put it under the rail, kind of squeeze it under, and this is as clean as it's getting. If you don't do it like this, you'll have to kind of do it over the top or different ways, and it will be a mess. So this is the cleanest way to pull everything together and have it be as OEM looking as possible. Before our engine is dropped into the car, we need to put our intercooler and radiator, because as you can see, it's not currently in. Should be pretty easy for us to do. Here's our core support hanging on by a literal thread, but it's here, it's here. Okay. This is heavy, by the way. Normally you'd be doing this with the core support out of the car, but because of the way I took out the engine, the core support stayed in, and therefore, ipso facto, I still had all this stack over here like this separate. It is heavy, and when you're lifting it quite high like this, it's a problem. It's a touch of a problem. I was afraid of that. Okay, well, so the core support was cracked, and leaning this heavy thing against it cracked it the rest of the way. So we're getting a new core support, it looks like. Hopefully I didn't crack the fan shroud or anything like that.
No, I think you saved it.
I think so too. Well, the only thing I ruined was the core support, so.
That's good news.
That's all right, I'll put it on the list of the other things I need to order. Can't use this.
Boing.
You know, we're gonna go with the engine from underneath, but we could go from the front now, these two. I buttoned up all the details on here and everything is installed, all the coolant, hoses, pipes, wiring, connectors, etc. So we don't have to do as much when we're in the car. Now our core support is broken, but I don't have time to mess with that, so we're gonna worry about it later. Right now we're gonna drop the car on the engine. Quick update as to where we are at. I installed the engine in the car, then we got the whole suspension underneath installed in the car, including the drive shaft, all the transmission related components. And now all of our coolant hoses and etc. are attached, connected as much as possible. One thing we haven't talked about yet is this crank pulley. This crank pulley needs to be installed when the engine is in the car because of the excessively high torque rating for the bolt that holds it in. One really important note about this is the splines on this are really easy to mess up, and if you misalign them, it can allow the engine to jump time. Also, torquing this is imperative. Do not just put this on with an impact. If you're watching this video, you probably love VWs as much as I do, which is why our e-commerce site and repair shops are centered around these cars. We're always looking for great people to join the team, so if you think you can make a big impact on our e-commerce site, or if you're a VW and Audi tech looking to leave the dealer world, send your resumes over to jobs@shopdap.com. Let's get back to the video. Now we have to install our downpipe all the way onto our turbo. This is a stock downpipe. APR's turbo is intended to be used with a stock downpipe, and all their software passes inspection and all that stuff. Comes with this donut gasket that we stick into our turbo. And then we're gonna get our V-band. And I put the downpipe in long before the subframe is in because it's a pain to do when you have a subframe in the car. Because I know a lot of people are gonna wanna do aftermarket downpipes because of restriction of factory exhaust. Number one, just understand you're gonna end up with a check engine light for catalyst efficiency faults because the software is tuned for a stock downpipe. Number two, and this is something that I know APR mentioned to me, is they have some concerns around wastegate control if you have an aftermarket downpipe because it's tuned to have a factory downpipe, and if you put an aftermarket one and it flows better, because the exhaust is flowing more freely, it could end up with a situation where the boost spikes because the wastegate is expecting it to have X flow and it has Y, so it ramps past it and then pulls the boost back down. You may end up with boost spikes that are not what APR intended with their tune. Here's our boost pipe kit from APR. You can see they have these nice CNC bent hard pipes and then silicone hoses. We're gonna go install them in the car. So you can see this is how the configuration goes. This goes to our throttle body just like that one does. I have to swap the boost sensor out. Sadly, our car being from New Hampshire has made this quite rusty. And so I'm gonna try to make sure these don't strip because they do not look good. No, I feel it's close, it's so close. Oh, they really don't buy cars from New Hampshire. This is from the GTI. I don't know, actually. Look at that. We don't have to worry about that at all. See, that's how it's supposed to come out. Our Ohio shop deals with stuff like this all the time, but I'm a baby because I'm not used to it. So this goes in here just like this, just like that, and then they provide screws for that. Now, for these mounts here and the other one right there, you have to swap over these bolts that are captive with the bushing from this pipe. Pry underneath the washer, rotate it up, and it will pull this out, and then you can pull the rubber piece through the other side. So you just pull that through the back side. Then we're gonna take the same rubber piece. I wanna put this in here just like this, and then this guy will just stick right in. You can do this from under the car, but obviously you're clearly not gonna be able to see nearly this much. And if you really wanted to, you could put just that hose on or just the bottom thing on. I think we put this on in the wrong order. This needs to, because we have our car in a million pieces, we gotta figure a lot of things like that out. And if you've installed it properly, you should be able to get your mounts lined up right with the holes on the block or on the upper oil pan. This is the boost pipe that goes over the transmission and it has all the hoses. This one goes to the intercooler right here. This one goes to the turbo. Here are the two different pipes we have. If you were to have a stock car and you are putting these boost pipes on your car, this is the hose you would use. Now, because we have the upgraded turbo, this is the hose we have to use. And we're just gonna stick that in under here, get it on our turbo, and then we're gonna get it onto our boost pipe, like so. And so you can see this is the hard pipe that runs down the front of the trans, and then this is the soft one that goes to the turbo. And then we also have on the bottom side, this one that goes to the intercooler. One of the things I like about doing these boost pipes is you have these really good clamps and you don't have to sweat like you do with many cars about the boost pipe blowing off. These things are really strong and this hose will not blow off this pipe. Now, to accommodate our more power, we do need more fuel, and that's where this comes in. APR has put together this drop-in fuel pump. We will need to remove the fuel pump from the car, which is in the back underneath the rear seat. If you would like to see a more detailed version of this install, we will have a full DIY on our second channel, but here is a quick Cliff Notes version. You're going to start by removing your fuel lines and dumping fuel all over the top of your fuel pump. You're then going to remove it from your fuel tank, and you got to stick your hands in gas. Also, make sure your tank's not full when you do this. APR has designed this fuel pump to be dropped into the factory fuel pump basket, which you can see right here. Because the factory fuel pump was not intended to be modified in any way, you have to drill out the plastic housing, which will allow you to break open the factory fuel pump, exposing the original pump that we want to remove. You then need to cut the wires that attach it, which we're later going to splice in the new pump. APR's instructions show you how much needs to be removed from this housing to allow the APR pump to fit inside of here. We have it marked in a black marker, and you can see we are cutting that off with a Dremel. You want to be careful that you don't take too much material and ruin your housing. Now we have to remove a tab on the inside of the housing, which we're going to do with a razor blade. Next, we have our APR fuel pump with the bracket it comes with that we are pushing into the factory pump housing. We then cut the connector off the APR pump and then splice the wires from the APR pump to the Volkswagen pump to connect them both. And of course, when we're done, we're going to heat shrink all those butt connectors. Before you install that, you have to put the sock on, and then you can drop all that into the factory basket. Also, fun fact, that basket is what keeps fuel in there when you go around turns so that you don't run out of gas just because you're going up a hill or you went around a hard turn. Now that we've assembled that, we're gonna drop that back into our car, and then we're done. Now that our fuel pump is finished, let's finish setting up the multi-port injection. High pressure fuel pump has been upgraded, the low pressure fuel pump has been upgraded. We have the multi-port rail here, but we need to supply fuel to this right here. And that's where this comes into play. APR has this thing, which is a T-piece. So you can see this is where the fuel line would be. It just kind of goes right here. You add the fuel line that goes between the two, and you're all set. So I'm gonna mark to prepare for our cut. I'm gonna probably cut a little long. I'm gonna make one cut here, and then I'm gonna make another cut right about the straight part here. You wanna make sure you cut it straight. Also, you can't use scissors. You could use hose cutters. I don't have any hose cutters. They're safer than what I'm doing, because as you've seen, I've had a few little slips that could result in a bad situation. So look at that, beautiful cut, straight. One thing I did, if you look, I cut this one too long, so now it's pushed backwards, and now where this fuel line needs to go won't go. So I need to cut that shorter. See what I've done? In an effort to make sure that I didn't screw up, I screwed up. All right, so I've completed it. Look at my wonderful work. All of this is exactly how it should be. Just be careful. I had to cut this hose a couple times, I had to cut this hose a couple times to get it exactly orientated properly so that nothing was yanking too hard or kind of jammed up so that it wouldn't get in place, because this line was the problem, getting it lined up with this fitting here. Now, last thing we need for MPI is this wire right here. This is what powers the multi-port injection. We wired obviously to the ECM, which we did already completed, and then we have to get power to it, which goes into this fuse box. And what we're gonna do is, this is an empty slot back here that we're gonna put this from the bottom side up into there, like that. So first thing we gotta do is pry this out of here. This part comes out of here so we can expose the underneath. And this is what we're looking for. Now we're gonna flip that around the back side. So you can see this is the row of fuses that we're talking about, and you can see at the end, there's a hole. I'm gonna plug this ECM in so we know we have a good orientation of all of where this wire is gonna be. And then I'm gonna feed it underneath all this into the back. All we're gonna do is stick it in. You can see there's these lock tabs like every other wire, and that's how it latches in. And so what we do is stick it inside there, and then you can push it in to latch it. And you can hear, once it latches like that, you can see it's in there. Easiest way to tell if it's there, or which one you put it in, is if you look in this one, this other side is black. You see there's nothing in there? This is the one we just inserted that into. You can see where the terminal is. Yep, so the boys at APR give you this 20 amp fuse. You stick it in there. Bam, voila, multi-port injection. Now, once you're done, all you gotta do is click it back in, and you can shoop, slide it back in like that. You remember this when I broke it? So we got a new one. Swapped it onto here and swapped all the sensors over, hood latch, all the other stuff. And we're ready to install this into our car. But first, we gotta drop an intercooler into it. I also sustained an injury. So injury report currently, left arm major injury that happened during the valve spring compression. was exacerbated heavily by the breaking of the core support. Still a nagging pain. We're in the fourth quarter, and hopefully I'll be able to make it through the game without having to come out. Other thing, it was a hip injury that happened when I slipped on a wrench. I've fully recovered from that one. I broke these clips off, if you remember. So all you do is put a screw right in there. And this is actually, I stole the screws from the boost pressure sensor. Okay. I'm gonna go drop this thing in. I'm doing this because I'm gonna lift, and this is a heavy assembly that we're just gonna basically get some bolts in, and then that way we don't have to struggle, because this assembly is heavy. That's why I broke the last core support that was, remember, pre-broken, so not fully my fault. All right, we put our clamp on, and then we're gonna put our boost pipe in place. All right, see there? Everything moved backwards now. We're all boosted up. Now is the time to check our cooling system. I'm gonna start by filling with water for now, because if there's any massive leaks, I don't have to clean up coolant. This is the optimal time to pressure test the system, because this core support is still not even fully on. None of the headlights are in, so if we had to remove this entire core support again, wouldn't take us hours to do. It would take us maybe 15 minutes, pull all the hoses off, get everything done. If we put in 1 gallon of water and 1 gallon of coolant, we're at 50-50, and the cooling system will mix it for you. I mean, it's not gushing out anywhere. I think that's a great start. So I'm squeezing the lower radiator hose just to pull the air through the system, and then we're gonna actually pressurize this once I've let the bottle kind of go down and fill up all the way. So we're gonna put oil into our engine. The biggest difference with break-in oil is that it has a higher zinc content for break-in. So we're gonna fill her up. I know someone's gonna say this is the wrong weight. I know, it's okay. This is not gonna be in the engine long. Okay, so this funnel, you can find one at shoptap.com. See how easy it is? You don't even have to hold it. You can just drop your bottle in just like that. The zinc in your break-in oil actually coats all the metal components for the break-in process to prevent premature wear before they're fully broken in. As you can see, this break-in oil is quite dusty. It's been on our shelf for a very long time. I think we special ordered it for somebody, and then it's sat ever since then. So I'm using it because I'm sick of it being on my shelf. There's one more thing we have to do before starting this car, and that's to install the proper tuning software. We're gonna start by hooking up our battery charger. Then we're gonna start installing our APR Stage 3 software, which is specifically designed for this DTR 6054 turbo, a low pressure fuel pump, MPI, and the upgraded high pressure fuel pump. Something really important that you do need to make sure whatever software you're putting on for your turbo is the appropriate software tuned for your setup. Because we're using APR's tune and all of APR's stuff, this is all designed to work together. Now you might be wondering if you need to prime the turbo with oil before you install it. It's not a bad idea to do so, but it's not required. A lot of times what you'll do is when you crank it, it'll pump oil pressure in there, and that's before the turbo has any RPM at all. So it should have oil pretty much immediately, and then before it's spun up real fast, it's already gonna have oil in there. If you wanna be extra precautious, you can put oil in there, either drops of oil or there's some turbocharger stuff that Liqui has you can drop in there, but that is an option of something you can do. We are ready. The engine's been apart for a long time, so we are going to crank it up to pump the oil pressure up to get it flowing through everything, and then we'll start it after. And APR has these plugs, they go with their stuff. They are fancy and schmancy. These are a colder heat range, so you'd want to put plugs like this in if you were upgrading. Just so you know, colder heat range plugs are good for if you're upgrading, but only if your tune really dictates it. So if you just put these in your car, just because, they're not going to really do anything. First start, here we go. Fingers and toes crossed. I'm ready to break this button. If you remember, we did the fuel pump, both the low pressure pump and the high pressure pump, so it's very possible that this, it's got to get air out of the lines, all this other stuff. So that's probably part of what's going on here. Also, this start button, this start button doesn't work. So It's really, the key's dead and the start button doesn't work. It's really pissing me off. It's really aggravating because the cluster is off right now. I don't know how much of this is an issue with the keys or not, but yeah, I might need it.
Like you might actually.
Oh, there we go. I forgot to plug the fuel pump in. So this is what happens when you have cars apart for a long time, is you do things and you're like, yep, I'll get back to that later. And then later comes and you're cranking the car over and you're like, why won't this start? Clearing the fault. Success. Great success. We're going to do that again because we didn't have the fuel pump plugged in, so you can't make fuel pressure with no fuel. And then we're going to turn it on. Hey, I heard the fuel pump prime. When it's plugged in, it goes. This button. I'm like nervous and angry at the same time. It's such a weird feeling to feel angry and nervous. Come on. Come on. Whoa. It runs. That's cool. Now I can like put it back together and actually get it to like run all the way. We'll try that. Oh, I can't rev it yet. I don't have anything connected. The reason why it sounded like that is because there's no boost pipes attached to anything. It's just like whirring out boost everywhere. So we know it starts, so I can officially put the car back together and get it ready for running, idling, driving potentially, and so at this point, you probably want to see us dyno this car, maybe do some hard pulls, do some launches and stuff like that. The problem is we can't do that yet. That's because this engine is freshly rebuilt and needs to be broken in. To properly break in an engine, you need to give the car about 500 miles of variable driving, meaning city driving, highway driving, higher RPM, low RPM. Don't just sit on the highway for 500 miles. Right now we have 50 miles, which is not enough miles. Now we also have to brake in the clutch, which also has a very similar break-in period. So in 500 miles, we will come back, perform a dyno, and see what this thing can do. But for now, let's take a look at the finished product. When we look at our engine bay, you can see it looks mostly stock. We have our beautiful carbon fiber APR intake, and then we have our turbo. Underneath of our engine cover, we have all the MPI. Fits beautifully into the original places. That's the way it should look. When we look at our turbo, it is significantly bigger than a stock turbo, but because it all uses factory lines, DV, PCV mounting, it looks still very factory. We also have our upgraded APR intercooler as well as our APR boost pipes. And to go with that power, of course, we upgraded the high pressure fuel pump and the low pressure fuel pump in the tank. And because the old shifter was rusty and decrepit, we put one of our Holy Shift short shifters in, which of course you can find at shoptap.com. And that completes our mod list on what will end up being a very, very stock looking sleeper build Golf R that's probably somewhere just shy of 500 horsepower. As much as I would love to full send this car, unfortunately the break-in period dictates that I can't. So stay tuned for when we actually get to do that and put this thing on a dyno.